city ride today on the Inmotion v13 Challenger. Now this right here, if you're new to this, is one of the fastest electric unicycles on the market right now, and I want to show you what it's like to really ride this thing for a full 30-minute clip around the city, show you kind of what to expect, give y'all some pointers, give y'all a few tips and whatnot when it comes to riding this specific electric unicycle, as well as unicycles in general, or electric unicycles in general, and just go over a few different aspects of urban riding that you really need to pay attention to, and a few things that could really save you in certain situations. So let's get into it and talk about it real quick. The Inmotion v13 Challenger is the top of the line EUC out right now. It is just incredible build quality. It really goes fast, and this thing, you can really get used to it when it comes to being able to handle this thing like a smaller electric unicycle. You just got to give it a little bit of time, and you'll be able to ride this thing no problem. There is a few things on this thing I want to mention though. Whenever you're first starting out on this thing, you really want to increase your distance for braking and whatnot, and this is just in a few months of in the first month or two of learning how to ride this thing, or if you're going from a lighter weight EUC to this one. Once you learn how to ride this thing, you can brake just as fast as you do on the lighter weight wheels. But one thing that I will say that will save you from bad situations is just give yourself a little bit more distance while you're learning this wheel. It will really help you out because it is heavier, and you're just gonna have to learn kind of how much input you have to put in to braking on this thing. Now, with the Inmotion wheels, what's really cool is you can actually go in, it's touchscreen on the top, and you can pick, you can increase your braking, you can increase your acceleration. One thing that I run my V12 high torque, my V12 high speed, and my Inmotion v13 all at maximum braking and at maximum acceleration. 100% braking, 100% acceleration. And I found that really gives me the best ride, guys. It seriously does. When I first got this wheel, the person before me had the braking really turned down far, and I noticed, and I'm not the type of person that goes in the wheel and changes much. I kind of get it and try to adapt to it and ride it, as soon as I get it out of the box. And that's just one thing I didn't look at, is the braking percentage it was set to. And I ended up coming down a really steep canyon road, and I was just trying to lean back on the brakes, guys, and I was getting not speed wobbles, but braking wobbles. And what I did is I increased my braking to 100% on this thing, and it pretty much eliminated my wobbles. Another tip is this: you see me whenever I'm coming into my stops and whatnot on the Inmotion v13, I'm carving as if I were on skis. I want you to think about it this way. Every time you're coming to a stop on this heavy wheel, whenever you're coming into a red light or anything like that, do a few carves back and forth and literally think about it like you're on snow skis. It is the best tip I have. Even right here, you see the little carves right there? That will eliminate your braking wobbles completely. It will absolutely get rid of them. You just need to play around with it for a little bit and just act like whenever you're coming to a stop, you're on skis, and even do that motion. You want to go side to side, and what this is going to be doing, you see how I do it on every stop, how I do that side to side motion on every stop. What that does is it puts you in control of that wheel. As the rider, you are putting the inputs in it. You're taming the wheel. You are telling the wheel what to do. And whenever you're making those small little back and forth inputs, even when I'm coming in slow, I don't really do it much, but if I'm braking a little hard, I always do those. And what that does is it's making it where you're telling the wheel exactly what to do in that scenario. So the wheel's not going to start, wobbling or doing something you're not telling it to do. If you just go straight in to your braking situation, you just try to lean back and the wheel starts, wobbling or doing whatever, that's because you're just trying to go straight back and you're not giving it a direction. You're not telling it what to do. And by carving back and forth, like you're on ice skates, like you're on rollerblades, like you're on, pretty much anything out there you think that you would kind of carve on, that is really what helps so much, guys. And I see, like, that is, if you look at the seasoned riders out there, if you look at some of the best riders out there, they will always do this, guys. I'm telling you, especially in city riding, even if they don't notice they're doing it, they do it. And it's that little ski stop when you're coming in to brake. Biggest tip for eliminating braking wobbles right there. And you will get them on this heavy wheel when you're learning it, when you're just getting into it. You will get it. So I'm telling you, be easy on it. Don't go too fast, too aggressive on this big wheel when you're first learning it, because those braking wobbles can scare the shit out of you when you get them. And you know, if you're going too fast and you're just getting this thing out of the box and take it up to 50 miles per hour, those braking wobbles or speed wobbles may really scare you, and you may bail off of it. You know, with the inertia of a wheel like this, and with a lot of these EUCs, if you just stay on it and you stay planted, you know, kind of lower your center of gravity and power through it, you can always kind of get through it, because you have so much inertia in that wheel rotating around. It really kind of straightens you out if you just stay on the thing and don't panic. So that's another tip. Another thing I got for, I had a guy the other day, he was asking me, he's like, man, I'm trying to learn how to ride electric unicycles, and he's like, one of the problems is I get going and all of a sudden I just turn sideways. He's like, I can't really get the wheel to go straight. I can't get the wheel to go where I want it to. I know this is a little bit different than, you know, extreme riding right here, but I want to get this out of the way for any new riders out there that are having that problem. The best way I can tell you to turn on this thing, if you're just learning to ride an electric unicycle, is point your belly button where you want to go. And that's at low speeds. At high speeds, it's a little bit different. But when you're just learning how to ride an electric unicycle, just point your belly button where you want to turn, where you want to go. And if you are having a problem with, you know, the veering off to one way or the other and not being able to go in a straight line, you need to look farther ahead and you need to lean forward a little bit more. And that is one of the, you know, kind of the best thing I can tell you if you're just learning to ride an electric unicycle. Just look farther ahead and lean forward and a little bit harder, a little bit more, and, you know, that'll help you. Don't look at the ground. One of the biggest things I see a lot of new riders doing is they're looking at the ground. And I know that, I mean, that's just what kind of instinct when you're learning this thing. But if you look ahead, if you look, pick like a, you know, like a telephone pole or a sign or something, and look at it at eye level. Look at that at eye level where you want to go. Maybe it be 50 yards away, 70 yards away, and lean and look at that at eye level, directly at it, and go towards it. Don't look at the ground or anywhere else, you know. But if you look at where you want to go and, you know, lean aggressively there, you'll go there and you won't have that problem. And that is one of the best tips I can give you as a new rider, is look where you want to go and look far ahead and don't look at the ground. So that'll help you out a lot right there. Tip I have for you is to be extremely vigilant when it comes to looking at your surroundings, and I want you to over anticipate what other drivers are going to be doing. Even when you see me riding at a high rate of speed around, I'm really analyzing everything, you know, that drivers are doing, where people are coming from, etc. Now, when you add speed to it, it does decrease the time you have to be able to react, and that is important. You know, even if you are a great rider, speed does decrease that reaction time, guys. And one thing that to note is I've rode in the city, man. This is where I first started riding EUCs, is in Denver, and riding around the city so much. And I'm telling you, if I would not have put in years of riding around the city at lower speeds and learning, how the traffic moves, how people react, etc., at those lower speeds, I wouldn't be able to safely do it at the higher speeds now. And it came from years of riding around in the city on these EUCs, man. And I rode many EUCs that couldn't exceed 35, 40 miles an hour. And this one, they can go up to 50. That's a big difference. That's a big jump for sure. So one thing I want you to do, if you are riding any of these faster EUCs around the city and everything like that, is essentially I want you to ride like everybody is out to get you, man. Like everybody's coming for you, whether it be cars, whether it be joggers, whether it be bikes, motorcycles. You really need to give people more space than anticipated. And I know in a few shots in this particular video right here, there is some, even that I think by my standards, that are a little bit too close, but that comes with riding, and you really need to decrease those as much as you can by being vigilant, by looking at your surroundings and just giving everybody a lot more space than you think you should. And you need to look for lines. By looking for lines, what I mean by this, if there's people on the sidewalk or whatever, or if there's a bike in the bike lane or whatever, you need to go around it. You have the ability on this machine right here to go way around, whether it be somebody walking a dog, for example. That's one thing I don't even get near anymore on electric unicycles. And because I've rode like that, I've never ever had a problem with it. In the early days of riding EUCs, I saw, hey, some dogs on leashes can be aggressive towards EUCs. So that's one thing now. Like if there's somebody walking the dog on the sidewalk, I'll wait till there's a gap in traffic, and I'll even jump in the oncoming traffic or whatever for a second to get around them, and not interfere with the dog on the leash or something like that. And it's just because with this machine, you have that ability. You have that ability to really go to some extreme crazy lines. And when you get to the when you get so good that you can kind of bunny hop over curbs and stuff like that, there's no reason you should be going down the sidewalk and asking somebody else to move out of the way. You have the ability to, completely navigate around them with a machine like this. And that's another huge tip I can tell you. I see some novice riders where they put their videos out, and they'll come up behind like a group of people, that are walking, whatever, and be like, hey, excuse me. And I used to do the same thing. What you need to do is you need to figure out a way around them to where you're looking so far ahead at that obstacle that may be upcoming that you have completely decided 50 yards before you even get there, what you're going to do and how you're going to get around it without having to slow down, without having to ask somebody, excuse me or whatever, how you can completely navigate that without interfering. You shouldn't, when you ride this thing around, it should be like you don't exist to anybody else out there. You should be able to ride it in a way that it navigates to where you don't interfere with traffic, you don't interfere with anybody else. You should be like a ghost riding this thing. It should be to where people don't have to look for you, you are looking at them. That is another huge tip, because people aren't going to be looking for an EUC, and people honestly don't really give a shit, man. You're riding an electric unicycle around, they're in their car, they're on their phone. To them, if they do hit you or whatever, it's the insurance is gonna be like, dude was riding an electric unicycle, and how could you see him? It's gonna be, at the end of the day, they're not gonna be at fault for it because you're on this unique device, and it's just gonna be incredibly hard to argue that they should have been paying more attention when you're riding something like this. It's up to you guys to do it. Even stuff like this, that would be considered a dangerous move to people, but I made up my mind right then and there that accelerating fast and getting around that car and going for that, on the inside line right there would be the safest way to do it. And even when you see me rolling through red lights and stuff like that here, one of the things I'm looking at is I'm looking at the walk sign on the side right there. I'm looking at the pedestrian walk sign, because the pedestrian walk sign is calibrated to where it's going to allow different turns and whatnot for a few seconds before that red light or green light actually turns. So that lane of traffic, if you have the walk sign up, see how that walk sign is blinking right there, that red hand is blinking, that means there's not going to be any oncoming traffic coming that way, even though if you may have a red light. So you can navigate that way. You need to be vigilant. You need to still look at your surroundings, but in many cities now, they have a law to where on bicycles you can roll through red lights. If you come to a stop, you look both ways, come to a pretty much kind of a rolling stop, look both ways, make sure it's clear, you can go through it legally on a bicycle. And these, in many cities around the world, are identified as bicycles. And so you can roll through stoplights, but you need to be looking and be vigilant. And it makes sense on EUCs in a lot of cases, and it is a lot safer than just sitting there in the middle of the damn intersection and just go. To just get out of the way and go if the intersection is clear. And if you can do that in whatever city you live in, if that is the law, if you can, safely come to a rolling stop and then go through the red light. Another tip I have for riding fast electric unicycles, one like this, they can get upwards of 50 miles per hour or so. You only want to take it up to this speed of 50 miles per hour. So you can do it around other cars, you can do it whatever it may be, but here's the thing, and this is my rule for riding motorcycles too. You only want to do your high speed runs when there is no adjacent outlet for cars to come out of. See this road right here? This is a perfect example of a good place to open it up and really get going, because you see right here, it's kind of a bridge I'm going up, and there's nowhere for cars to pull out in front of me. You see that? There's no driveways right here. There's no fast food restaurants. There's no places right there where I opened it up right there. A car could have pulled out in front of me, guys, and that is key. You don't want to be taking these things up to top speed 50 miles an hour where you got a lot of places where cars can pull out in front of you, guys. Like if you're taking this thing down a main strip of road and you got an Arby's, a Waffle House, a bank up here where people aren't paying attention and they can be pulling out in front of you, that's not smart. Just like on a motorcycle, like people, seasoned riders on motorcycles, they'll only do their high-speed riding or high-speed runs up in the mountains. They'll do it up, on the back roads, and there's a reason for that. It's because there's nowhere for cars to pull out in front of them, guys. That's one of the big things that will save you if you're a motorcycle rider right there, and you won't have a problem with high-speed impacts and crashes. Because, man, that's how I lost one of my good friends, man. He was on his motorcycle and a dump truck pulled out in front of him. And what are you gonna do? You're on a motorcycle, you're going too fast, and a dump truck pulls out in front of you. You can't, at that given time, you can't make up which way you're gonna go around it. It's too late, So that's one of the main things. If you're gonna take this thing up to high speeds, make sure you're on a road with just no cross paths, no intersections, no, little alcoves, anything like that. Make sure it's a straight road where your sides of your roads are completely, they're free of anything that's going to come out at you. That's the best thing I can tell you right there. And that goes for motorcycles too. That will save you guys 100%. And another thing that has really helped me out on particularly the Inmotion v13 is keeping my power pads in the same place and not changing my power pads. I've gotten, one set of power pads on this thing, and I've stuck with them since I got it. I've gotten used to them. I've got adapted to them. They're in the right place, and whenever I go get on this wheel, it is complete muscle memory now. If you're changing your power pads up a lot, if you're constantly moving them, if you're constantly, rearranging them, whatever the hell you're doing with them, you need to put in miles, and you need to really get used to it. And it does not have to be perfect. You just need to get used to it. And that goes particularly for this heavy Inmotion v13. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to get good power pads on there. I don't care if you get, the ones I have linked, the Grizzly pads, the Clark pads, whatever you get. If you make your own, the side pads are the red things right here. If you're new to this, is the red things on the side of the unicycle. Those are 3D printed. You can buy them aftermarket from different people that make them. or either you can make ones yourself out of some, some foam from yoga blocks, out of some of those, the mats you put on your garage floor. People are creative. They use rubber, cement, hot glue, whatever it is that gets your feet locked in there to where you can got a little bit more leverage to brake, and you got a little bit more leverage to get this thing going. It is very important, but the biggest thing I can tell you is just to get used to it. Get a few hundred miles of this same exact setup of this, where everything is the same, and it will make such a big difference, man. Like, I was about to take apart my V13, and I was just like, man, should I take off the power pads? I was like, can I get to all the bolts I need to without taking off the power pads? And that was key. I did not want to have to move them at all because I love where they're positioned at, and I've gotten so used to it. So that's another thing that will help you a lot, especially on this heavy wheel. Keep the same setup. Get used to it and keep it. And one other thing to talk about on the Inmotion V13 is the tire. A lot of people, when they first get this wheel, including myself, if you look back to the first video I made of the Inmotion V13, I was having trouble cornering. I was having, you saw me riding on the mountain roads, and I about went off the side of the mountain because I was just having trouble cornering on it. And it's because this is an off-road tire. It is a knobby off-road tire. It has a rather flat, it's like a trials bike tire, so it's, it has a huge surface area on the bottom of it, and it really is not designed for cornering. Now, one thing that a lot of people, if you're a street rider on this thing, a lot of people, when they get this, they're gonna be kind of discouraged. The first few corners they go around, it's gonna be like, dude, why does this wheel not turn? I'm trying so hard to turn. I'm giving it all I got. I'm leaning with everything, and it won't turn. And you'll run into that. Literally, for your first 2 weeks on this thing, you're going to be like, man, I can't get it to turn. I got to change the tire, whatever. I encourage you to push through it, to keep riding it, to keep trying, different techniques to turn. And it may be different for every person out there, but eventually it will become absolutely no problem at all. And you man, I could not imagine changing out the tire on this thing, even if I were a person that liked to ride city stuff, I mean, if you're 100% just road riding, if you're like a road racer and road rider to the core, you don't touch dirt, yeah, maybe you should change the tire out. But I'm telling you, you'll get used to this tire, just like you'll get used to the wheel, and you'll be able to turn it. You have a technique to turn it, and it won't be a problem. I can go around corners now at high speeds, low speeds, and I can get the wheel to do exactly what I want to do on the left-hand corners and the right-hand corners. For the first 2 weeks, man, like, my right-hand corners were just, they were a lot better than my left-hand corners, or vice versa. I don't remember what it was now, but I remember saying it in the video. I was like, man, I think it was turning left. I was like, dude, I can't turn left on this thing. I was like, I can turn right fine, but I can't turn left. And that completely negated itself, and I don't even notice it now at all. And it just, and I was even riding it fast. If you look back at that first video, I was riding it fast, I was having fun on it, but I still just was not confident in cornering both ways. But now I totally understand, the wheel. I've adapted to it, and it's no problem at all. I actually got on my V12 high torque just 2 days ago and tried to ride that thing around, and man, it was like so lightweight feeling, and just so, it was almost like dangerous how I was riding it, like dangerous feeling, because it was just so lightweight. And every corner I was making on it, guys, I was like skidding out, like, because I was just aggressively like going, like putting my inputs in, and like even on just concrete, I was making the thing straight skid on corners. Like, if I were to do that corner right there that I just did, that fast, like, snap around on the sidewalk on a V12 high torque, the thing I would still be spinning in circles up there, just because of like how, much more nimble it is. And if you're coming from that, you just got to be more aggressive with your inputs, and a little bit of time is all it takes. And I'd go for the V13 now for this type of ride, for many type of ride. For a lot of stuff, even trail riding now. I can't even explain why, man. The thing is extremely heavy. It is just, it's a pain in the butt to take in and out of the car. I'm not going to tell you that it's not. but it is what I've been going to, man, as my go-to wheel. I got a lot of different stuff to ride, and even if I'm not going specifically to film a video or anything, I definitely want to take the V13 every time. I really am enjoying this wheel. It's doing everything I like, man. Like, there's not a lot of wheels you can do this where you could just go full speed as fast as you want across terrain like this. I mean, there could be a hole in the grass over here, like a sprinkler system, you know, a hole in the ground, and you hit that with a smaller wheel like the V12 high torque going full speed with no suspension, and you are going down. You're going to, you know, hit that bump and you're going to go down hard. But with the 22-inch wheel like this and the added speed and the suspension and everything, man, you can just skim across grass, across everything, type of obstacles, man. And I went and did some trail riding, guys, a few days ago on this thing, and I was blown away at how good it could trail ride. This thing was able to take me farther on the trails than I've ever gone, and it was so smooth. It was incredible because these same trails that I've tried to ride on many other electric unicycles before, I had never gotten as far as I'd gotten into them on the V13 the other day, and it was because I was able to ride them at a way faster pace the whole time. I was really trucking on these trails, and it was just smooth, and it was incredible because I got to the certain point where, you know, I'd ride my M Super Pro and my V12 high torque, and I'd just be worn out by the time I'd gotten to that same spot. And on the V13, it was like nothing, man. I wasn't even breaking a sweat, and I was just cruising the trails. So it does cruise trails with way less effort. It's kind of effortless, you know. It's the best way to put the V13. Once you get used to it, you know, it all is getting used to it, because you take this thing on some single track trails when you first get it, and you are going to hate it. But once you get adapted to it, it is so smooth, and you really wouldn't want anything else. So I'm telling you, if you're thinking about giving the V13 a chance, you got to give it an honest chance. You can't get it and just get it out the box and be like, oh, I don't like this, I want to go back to my other EUC or whatever. Get the V13, give it an honest chance, and I really think you'll enjoy this wheel. And this thing is an absolute beast off-road as well. I got some new trail riding footage with some brand new trails bringing to you guys. So hit the subscribe button, hit a like if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.